Hi, I'm Randy Mooi. I'm the Curator of Zoology here at the Manitoba Museum, and today we're talking toads. But not just any toads. These are very special toads. They have a very restricted range in Manitoba. They're only found in the extreme southwestern corner, so around Lyleton, Melita, and a little further northeast than that. So these two toads are especially adapted to very dry conditions. The Great Plains toad is actually considered threatened in Manitoba and of special concern in Canada because its populations seem to be a little lower than they probably should be. They have a typical sort of toady skin with a few warts. They have what are called the parotid glands just behind their eyes, as you can see here. And these are the things that exude sort of a poisonous fluid. Because the southwestern corner of the province is so hot and dry, these toads actually are mostly nocturnal. So they try to avoid the hottest times and driest times of the day. So they come out at night to feed, and then they would burrow into the ground or maybe rest in an abandoned rodent burrow to stay cool and wet, or wetter, during the day. They do rely on a strange breeding method called explosive breeding, which means because it's so dry in the southwest, the ponds tend to not be there all the time. They're what are called ephemeral. So when they hear or feel strong rain showers, they burrow up from the ground and then they go to these ponds to breed. So you might get toads from quite a distance away coming to a particular pond and they call. For the Great Plains toads, their calls sound a little bit like a high-pitched jackhammer, very loud. They can travel up to 2 kilometers across the plain. So when you're close up to them, it actually hurts your ears quite a bit. And they have a vocal sac that extends out from beneath their face and goes upwards that they fill, that they then use to produce that sound. The Great Plains toads can produce between 1,300 and 45,000 eggs. And when these are fertilized, they're left in the ponds as long strings of eggs, a little bit like other toads that are related to them, things like Canadian toads and American toads. The spadefoot toad is the other highly adapted toad for the southwest corner of the province. And it is a little bit different looking. It has smooth skin. I'll just take out an example here from our collections that are used for research. And this is quite a bit smoother. And it's called a spadefoot toad because of these keratinized little parts on the back legs that act like little shovels. And so they can actually back their way in. They sort of dig with their back feet and they dig into the soil like that to avoid the heat and try to stay a little bit more moist. These guys are particularly well adapted though because they can lose up to 50% of their body moisture and still survive. They also can just feed sometimes just a few times over the summer to last even through the winter during hibernation. So they can spend a lot of time underground. And if there's no rain and no ponds for a particular year, they won't breed. When they do hear rain coming down, they come up to the surface and, like the Great Plains toads, go to these ephemeral ponds and will call. They have quite a bit different call. Their vocal sacs expand outwards onto the sides here, and they have almost a quacking sort of call. But it might be closest to the sort of cartoonish sort of ribbit call that we always think about. These don't lay quite as many eggs. The females lay about 2,000 eggs or so, and then in clumps rather than in strings. The eggs hatch very quickly again, 2 to 7 days. The tadpoles can become toadlets in as little as 2 weeks. To avoid the disappearance of those ponds, they have to metamorphose into toads to be able to hop around on ground in a very short time. These two species, because they live in such an unusual place and because the Great Plains toad is endangered, the museum has been doing surveys, try to monitor these populations and see if there are other populations we don't know about. And over the years, we have actually expanded the range of Great Plains toads by quite a distance from what was originally thought to be their range. the research that happens here at the museum can help us understand where and how these toads live in such a difficult environment. So if you want to learn more about these two species of toads and all the other frogs and toads that occur in Manitoba, you can come down to the Manitoba Museum, and we have displays which show some models of these, and we also have some video clips that allow you to learn some of their sounds, and so when you're out this spring, you can figure out what species you're hearing.